you did the race Saturday night at Daytona, and your name was almost trending in social media because as you were calling the race, you watched Ryan Preece flip end over end down the back straightaway. Horrible. One of the worst. That thing was like a dog grabbing a cat. I mean, he flipped probably 10, 11 times. Now, let me just say this. In 1982 at Daytona, in the number 72 Ramada Inn car, you flipped horrible. From what I remember, it was the Kodak car. Rick Wilson, I thought he got into you. Richard Petty was into that. That was a twin 125. Now, we move forward, I think, to 1993. You're in the Miller Genuine draft car, and you flip violently. Then you go to Talladega, and Earnhardt tagged you in the left rear, I believe, coming across start finish line, and you flip violently again. So in your super speedway career, I think you've wrecked as much as anybody, going for the win, battling. So when you saw Ryan Preece go through that, the fans started thinking, man, that reminded me of Rusty. Give me your thoughts on just everything I talked about.
Well, everybody has bad wrecks in their career. It's going to happen to everybody. It's happened to me. Unfortunately, it happened to Earnhardt really bad. I've seen Tony Stewart go through it. I've seen Ricky Rudd go through it. I've seen a lot of drivers go through it. And let's go to that particular wreck. Ryan Preece, what went through my mind? Immediately went through my mind after it was all done. I said, it was a really violent wreck. I mean, he wasn't just there. I've seen many guys just go up and spin and flip and go over, and they're doing soft landings, call it, as the car's flipping, they're just touching the front fender, touching the rear quarter panel, stuff like that. But every impact that car made was violent. I mean, it would crash on the rear quarter panels. It would crash on the nose. It would crash on the roof, and it would hit hard every single time. So I'm like, wow, how violent it was is unreal. It's a real test of that car to see how tough that car really is. And I'm sure NASCAR's got that car right now. They're probably all over it at their research center there in Concord, North Carolina. Other thing that went through my mind was, okay, that car got dead sideways and was dead in the position my car was when I went airborne and flipped. But we came up with the roof flap, which was supposed to keep that car on the ground. Well, I always call, there's certain things you just can't control. And one of them is momentum. The other is force. And the other one is a term I use when you get in a big wreck or Daytona Talladega called, you're just getting pole vaulted. And basically what happened to him, he left a smooth surface of asphalt, entered the grass. And as he entered the grass, it gave more air between the bottom of the car, underneath the car. And we watched that thing over and over and over, and that air got underneath that car. And the force was so great and the motion was so great that it wouldn't let the roof flap really do its job. It wouldn't let it keep it down on a flat surface and just spin around a circle, and that'd be it. It almost got pole vaulted over. It got forced over. It got pushed over, whatever you want to call it, but wanted to hit that grass. The surface that it was on, sliding on, completely changed. And it put it in the sky. And I went, wow, that's the first time I've seen all these things happen, where it just basically took the doggone roof flap and said, hey, that roof flap was popped straight up and down. It was trying to do all it could, but it still went upside down. And once you get that thing upside down, then it's just going to take over. Mother Nature's going to do its deal.
So your experience with, the violent flips you've had, Ryan Preece says he's okay. I remember after Talladega, you broke your wrist, I think, and we had the legendary black brace. You went to Sears Point. You still shifted the hell out of that race car. What is Ryan? You have experience at violent flips. Is he going to be fine? I mean, he's a good racer, but is he going to be okay?
Well, he's the only one that's going to know if he's going to be okay. I mean, if the doctors say he's okay and he says he's okay, I trust that he's okay. But I'll never forget. I mean, you got these little goofy things that happen to your body that doesn't affect anything you do, but I'm going to give you an explanation. Okay. Back driving the number 72 car.
Yeah.
That was the car that I had the horrible wreck in. And I'll never forget that wreck because it was muddy that night before the race. And I went down to, you remember doing off the
I,
side.
I was the first one to see you in the infield care center.
I was wearing a solid red uniform. And I went down through that mud. There was so much mud in that back straightaway. My car's flipping through it, and it completely loaded whole inside of the car up with mud, destroyed it. They pulled me out, put me on a stretcher. I'll never forget going into the infield care center. And there you were crying, you were freaking out. You thought you lost your brother. You know why? Because all that red was sticking through the mud, and what that was is I was so caked with mud that all you could see is these little red spots, and you thought I was bleeding to death.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh, it was devastating. Devastating.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. And you had an open face helmet on. So the sand is coming through. As you told me later on when we were able to relax about it, you said that sand, they were digging it out of your nose, out of your everywhere, because it was high speed sand.
Crazy. It was crazy. But after that wreck, I had that big bad wreck. And I noticed that every time I went and got in the shower, I used to get in the shower and shower down, and I would shake my head like an old dog, to get all the water off my head.
Water out of your ears.
And every time I shook my head, to this day, every time I shake my head, I got to hold on to something because I'll get dizzy.
Yeah.
And it happened when I wrecked that car.
Yeah.
It'll just move some things around in your brain that cause you to get vertigo every now and then. Now, I drive a car, I do anything I want, I don't feel nothing. It's just when I take and shake my head in the damn shower, I'm like, okay. So now back to Ryan Priest. He's the only one that knows. And I'll guarantee you, every driver who went through something, he'll know, hey, am I okay or am I not okay? And I'm telling you the story, so I don't have a problem telling you the story. I hope if there's something wrong with him, he don't have a problem telling you that. Now, I'm sure he'll be fine driving a car and stuff like that. But and then there's some people who aren't so fortunate, like Kurt Busch. Yeah. He tried and tried and tried and tried to get his head back right, but he just said, I'm just not right. I'm just not back right, and I just can't drive these cars to the potential they can be driven because I'm just not right yet. Now, if you talk to him, if you stand right here, perfect conversation. You can do anything you want. But he knows when he gets in that car under those forces and all that stuff, he's not where he needs to be. So, will Ryan Priest be okay? I don't know. The other one that scared me about Ryan Blaney, that head-on collision.
Yes.
To the wall. That scared me to death because I saw his head fly completely forward. I saw the tethers hold his helmet back, and he was still only that far from the steering wheel. That one there scared me too. That's another one where when he wakes up, I hope he feels good under all these different circumstances too.
Yeah, I know, all these years later, I can definitely say that when I got knocked out in 1991 at New Hampshire, it changed. I'm still Kenny, but it knocked the hell out of me.